perhaps related to what we're seeing at Eskom, the South African Democratic Teachers Union, calling for an alliance economic summit. This is to address what it calls the chronic corruption that is taking place at Eskom and other mismanaged state-owned entities. Let's get more detail now on what exactly the union is asking for here, and we'll speak to the General Secretary of the South African Democratic Teachers Union, Mugwena Maluleke. Mr. Maluleke, thank you very much for your time. Let's begin first with what you are saying is the education sector suffering billions of rand as a result of the Eskom load shedding that we have been subjected to. Add to that there are teachers who are now facing imminent retrenchment. Connect this for us.
Let me thank you for the opportunity, Gambi, and greet your viewers and greet yourself, and indeed go straight to the issue, how we connect these issues, because education is an enabler, and clearly it is that it's the same as energy, which enables our economy to grow. So every stage 6 of load shedding in our country, the GDP loses about 4 billion rand. And we have seen that in the past 3-4 years, when we start having a load shedding, that schools have lost income as a result of the budget being reviewed, and our provinces having lost a lot of money. For example, let's give the example with KZN, where they lost about 2.6 billion in terms of their budget, and therefore were not able to even employ substitute teachers when teachers were not well as a result of COVID-19 and many other illnesses that were there. So that in itself says that we are in a crisis when our learners are being affected by load shedding, which is the driver of our economy. Because for the budget to be revised and kept on revising downwards to the extent that it begins to affect education, it is a result of a slacky and a stagnant economy that is not growing, and the driver for that particular economic sluggishness as well as no growth at all, it has been the energy, which also was also affecting the stability of the country in terms of investor confidence, because there is no country in the world that can be able to attract investment when you cannot be able to provide them with that particular stability and certainty as a result of these particular energy blackouts that will continue to be seen. So it is the child right there in the classroom that is suffering as a result of no additional resources that can be availed, because the economy or the base for the government to be able to raise revenue is shrinking, because government relies more on tax for corporate and individual taxes. So that is where the connection comes in, to the extent we can talk about other social ills that we see and that are reflected in our children as they come to school, because the school is a microcosm of the society. We can talk about those things, but just at the face value, any load shedding has an impact on us as education.
You've explained it well. Budget reprioritization, which then translates to teachers not being employed, or at least those that are in employment losing their jobs. Just how many are we talking about who have lost their jobs?
Well, we're talking more than almost about 3% in totality in terms of those who have literally not been able to be re-employed, and therefore the class is going up. But we are faced with a situation that we can go up to almost 5% of the totality. Obviously, if you employ about 400,000 teachers and you lose those 3% of our teachers, not as a result of natural attrition, not as a result of any other thing, but just because the employer cannot more to us. Education is different from any other service, because the Constitution and on all of us that in front of each and every child there must be a teacher at all material time. So if a teacher is not employed as a result of government trying to make a saving, like in Limpopo, where the management is not being employed, and that itself that the schools are running without management for a very, very long time. And obviously, if Limpopo has about 2,000 schools. It means there are no 2,000 principals in that particular area, which then itself says that we are going to be facing a crisis economically and politically and socially, because if education cannot produce the skills that we require for our economy, and because I always say, if you want to see the type of country and economy, you better could say the mirror of education system is the economy of the country. If it's not growing, there's a problem in terms of the resources that go to education.
And that is why you are asking for this Alliance Economic Summit. While I'm posing this question to you, Mr. Maluleke, I don't know if you could possibly move around your connection. We are losing you a little bit. But let's then talk about why you think that this Alliance Economic Summit is going to help with anything. And I'm asking you this question, or phrased in this manner, simply because COSATU has complained over a number of years that, yes, you are in alliance with this ANC-led government, but many of your proposals are not taken on board. If anything, you keep losing.
Well, let me agree with that many of the proposals have not been taken on board. However, that does not mean that we shouldn't continue to be pushing for a leadership that we can be able to talk to in terms of COSATU, the SADTU, and all the other MDM structures, because we're talking about the alliance. It's a broad alliance where we're seeing that SANCO is coming up and being able to say we support the education of our children, and we want to push for Eskom to be able to provide these particular services and so forth. So, and they keep on really marching. So for me is that we have got to have hope and be optimistic that the alliance is still the only vehicle that we have that some of us trust, that we can be able to go into that particular summit and come up with concrete proposals and practical steps that can be put in place. And why we do that is precisely because the call for that particular alliance summit is on the basis that we cannot have a social compact where we don't have leadership that is driving that particular social compact. We need to have a leadership that when you have committed yourself, all of you, whether business, labor, and government, by having committed, they need to be able to come. And that's what we want to go and address today. So we have realized that education is not at the center of development in this particular country. It is being pushed aside, and hence it is now coming from us as educators to then say, when you want democracy to die, it was going to die in darkness. And we believe that the teachers have got to provide and shine that particular light and say, we believe in practical steps that can be taken. So, well, let those who are in leadership take the risk of not taking our proposal, not taking us serious, and then they risk collapsing this country, because it's not only me and you that are going to suffer, but all of us are going to be suffering, because in 2027, as it's been predicted and forecast in terms of economists, they are saying that 2027 we are likely to be a low-income country because our economy is not growing. That is spelling disaster for me and many other people. So if they cannot take us serious, I think we will have got to change the tune in terms of how we discuss issues.
Final question, therefore, and very briefly, if you can, because you logically lead me to the question about who should be at the driving seat of that leadership that you say will take the country forward. We saw the GS of COSATU coming out clearly ahead of time to say President Ramaphosa is the person that ought to still be on the driving seat. And then, literally hours later, COSATU comes out to say, we're not endorsing any particular candidate at this ANC conference. Where does SADTU stand, and was Solipetwe speaking out of turn?
Well, I think Solipetwe was misunderstood. He was just merely saying that this particular president is still capable and can still be capable of leading. I don't think he was endorsing a particular candidate. and so forth. And I think COSATU was clarifying that, look, for now the ANC is highly divided. And in a divided organization, COSATU doesn't want to be part of that.
Mr. Maluleke.
The highest contestation.
Yeah. Well, look, the reason I'm laughing is because you're breaking away slightly, and it's such a crucial comment. I mean, my viewers would be forgiven to think that you suddenly disappearing at a time that you're asking a crucial question. So just start the response for us from the beginning.
Okay, I'll be very brief. I am saying that COSATU's decision is correct when faced with the divided ANC. Rather allow the ANC to decide. But Solly did not endorse the president. I think it was in context to then say, whatever is happening cannot stop the president to be contesting the election. I was talking about that. So as SADTU, we are also COSATU is divided. Allow the ANC to unite itself. We as the alliance should support that particular leadership. So we cannot pronounce in a divided.
All right. I think Mugwena Maluleke, at least hopefully you were able to hear the gist of that response, and that is that COSATU wants to pull away from the factional battles in the ANC, let the ANC unite itself first, and then perhaps they could come in as an alliance partner to express whatever preference. But for now, let the ANC deal with its own troubles. I think that's the gist of what he's saying there.